Astrid, we're about to start the show. I'm sorry. For starting on my screen. Oh no, I will do this on my tablet. Astrid, sorry, give me 2 hours. Sounds terrible, but... Do you know we're supposed to have an art class 1 to 3? My alarm says so.
And miscellaneous. Alright, that there. This here.
Color would show out okay on this one. Like a red?
Yeah,
red
a bright red would show up really well. And
that's not very bright or big. Bright. This image is just huge. This image is huge. Okay.
yeah, it's enormous. It is really big. Okay.
I don't know how to make it so Discord doesn't pop up like that. But they're gonna see Jasmin's conversation somehow. Sorry.
That's okay. Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
We're ready and we're going live. Hello everyone, my name is Jasmo, and with me is MorbidDinosaur.
How are ya?
And we'll be doing the Watch Me Work Critique Show today. Today we've got pieces by Riva Comics, Dungeon Pug, and by MorbidDinosaur herself. Today we're going to start with Riva Comics' piece, and we're going to start with the drawing side.
Alrighty. So, with a piece this finished in such a defined style, it's very difficult to say that anything is wrong, quote unquote, or needs improvement. All the inconsistencies in the piece look very deliberate. As far as one leg being designed the other, differently than the other one, and so on. So we asked you to provide an artist that you wanted to be closer to, that you aspire to, and you said that you liked Humberto Ramos. Am I saying that right? Do you think?
I think so.
Okay. And I think he has a phenomenal style as well. The biggest differences between your drawings and his drawings is not actually technical skill. I believe that on the purely technical handling the tools side of things, if we're talking about just drawing, because I can't really say anything about the coloring technique, because I don't know. You have two differences. I guess three. The difference between his turnaround here and your turnaround here is gesture. Your pose here sort of reflects the personality of the creature. And I know that a lot of traditional art schools say that when you do a turnaround, it should be a static pose to show them in their relaxed position. But this sort of stiff posture puts forth a less dynamic view of the character than a turnaround like this. So you have to take artistic liberties and walk away from some of the traditional values at times. Because he doesn't just use this sort of dynamic posture or a gestural posture in just his turnarounds. In every one of his pictures, he has a very strong gesture line, which is the second difference. Your poses, I've looked through your artwork on your media pages. It feels very stiff, like you haven't yet captured an actual gesture line for your character, which you can do even in a static turnaround. This one has all kinds of curviness going on to it. And you can put line in a static pose to make it stronger, whether it be pushing the... You're just so huge, I just switched brush sizes. You can put a pose in there stronger, maybe like tilt the hips or broaden, like, you know, widen the stance, just to give it more gesture. So push it. You have to push it, even in a static pose, to give it that sort of quality. There's a lot of symmetry in your pose. You have enough artistic skill. I know you've probably heard it before, that making a strong drawing is a lot about opposites, and so you should add some asymmetry in your pose to make it stronger. That's what I think would improve this already really strong concept. So the very last thing that I see is a big difference between his drawings and your drawings is you seem to lack a little bit of exaggeration in your design. You have, you know, pushed your designs quite a bit, but you can exaggerate so much more. The strength in some of his pieces comes from the contrast in size. So she has, you know, really big toes and a really enormous foot, postured like a wolf to give her this sort of sense and feel, and she has a nice sized head in contrast to this very skinny body. Batman's foot here is a humongous size, his muscles are huge. You know, he really pushes the exaggeration in all of his pieces, even as realistic as they get. He pushes it to the limits in every one of his pieces. Even this is full of a lot of exaggeration. You know, if a real woman tried to stand like this, I'm sure she'd be in some type of pain attempting this. So, you know, you gotta exaggerate. If in this design you had exaggerated, like, the width of his... Oh gosh, back to brush size. Okay. If you had exaggerated in your design the width of his face, the contrast in the width of his face to the narrow point of his face, that would be an example. I'm not saying that that's what you should do, because this is your design, you know what I mean? Maybe that'll ruin the look, I don't know. But contrast is key when you're trying to get his type of cartoony look. So, you know, if you're having a wide top to a small bottom, wide shoulders to a skinny waist, you have to push it, like, to the limits. You know, the width of the hips here should be either extremely large or extremely small compared to the width here, if you're going to go from small to wide in that fashion, or from wide to small in that fashion. So you got to work contrast into every part of your design if you're trying to get it in this cartoony-esque style. Yeah, so exaggerate, loosen up your poses, get some gesture in there, and add some contrast to your design. You know, big to little, like round to sharp, that sort of thing. You have like really great line. I do have to say that, like, your lines are so spiffy. I think I've told you that like 100 times in your stream. Like, I love your like hair swirl thing that I can't do. Like, it just looks so great to me. Like, I particularly enjoy like the depth that you add in your designs. Like these swirls. Am I wrong here, Jasmin? Are they not beautiful?
I like them, yeah. Nice touch.
Yeah, I really like that. Like, so I think you have really strong designs, and as a, like, you know, classical fantasy artist, like, you've already got it, you know, on a professional level. But if you're trying to get to a exaggerated gestural level, those are just some points I would try to work into your already existing style, you know? Anything that you think I'm leaving out or I'm not clarifying, Jazz?
The only thing is, if you want your lines or your shapes to also look similar to Humberto's, is that you have a lot of sharp points. And he picks and chooses where to put those sharp points, and he usually doesn't have very many of them. Yeah, so like on the elbows, that one point, on the calf sometimes there is a sharp point. Yeah.
I agree that he does use a lot more rounded shapes. You can get pretty exaggerated with pointy shapes. It's just you have to push him a lot harder at times. So, like, when you're doing, let's say, an arm like this, you would have to really max it out and really hit on your contour so that it doesn't look absolutely jangity crazy when it's nothing but points. So it's a little bit more challenging than using nothing but round shapes. So, you know, I agree with your point. Like, you could try mixing up your shape, but if you're comfortable using a pointy style, it's your style, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, take it as far as you can. You just really gotta, like, if you're going to do a wide deltoid or a wide pointy deltoid, try bringing in that bicep to where it's almost like non-existent, maxing out that tricep, and then, you know, doing the same thing with the arm, but then get down to the hand and just fucking boom, pop it out, humongous hand, great googly knuckles, you know what I mean? So lots of contrast.
I've also noticed in Humberto's characters, even like in the women, the forearm is almost the same width as the wrist. Like, there's very little difference between, like, at the top of the forearm where it connects to your upper arm and the wrist. The width is usually pretty consistent between all of his characters, and I think that is, like, a defining thing that I could identify his work from other people's work. But you don't necessarily have to have.
Yeah. That's definitely something that's consistent in his style. It's very true. But there's also, I'm not saying but there's also a lot of things that are consistent in Reva's style. Like I was saying, like these lines are very consistent. The curves that he does are extremely consistent. You could definitely pick his work out of, you know, a million artists because of these, you know, pointy lines and this, like, I would put this on a scale of 1 being not detailed, like Bugs Bunny, 10 being super detailed, like, you know, a Final Fantasy render. I would put his somewhere at 8 or 9, as far as how much detail he adds in. So that, to me, is also a defining feature. And I also think that you think through the shapes that are going into a character design very thoroughly. You don't ignore different parts of the anatomy just because they're difficult to draw or they might not fit the style that you're going for. So I do applaud you on that. You think your character designs through very much, and you're consistent with the curve and the sharpness throughout your entire character design. But sorry, yes, that's what I have as far as for what the difference would be or where to go. So I would practice exaggerating your character designs and loosening up your poses and adding contrast to your poses or to your character designs. Don't be afraid. Push it to the limit.
Indeed. And Riva, we're not sure if you were also wanting a color critique, if you liked Humberto's style overall, not just his lines, but also his color. If you do, I can point out basically just one thing. I know you use gradients a whole lot. You can see how it fades from a blue to the normal pant color. Just about everywhere. You don't use too many hard lines to define where your color goes, except for when there is a color pattern. On Humberto's, you can notice that there is a hard line where this darker color is compared to the lighter color, and there is even a harder, it's still soft, but a harder line for the lighter colors as well. And the highlights are also what I would call hard lines between colors, and that's mainly like between these two colors there is a hard line right now, and if you wanted a softer line you would do this, and this would be considered a softer line, blending the colors together until you can't really tell where one starts and the other stops. You do have a couple of hard lines in your hair here. I mean, yeah, in your hair. You can translate that to more places, other than just places you have definitely defined as being dark. Like on these rib shapes, you have defined. Oh my God, you have defined more, but you could push this hard line everywhere. You could definitely put it in here as a defining line for the shadow, just like you have in the areas that you've already blocked out to definitely always be in shadow. And I would apply it everywhere, definitely. You do have some hard highlights, which is great. Putting some hard shadows next to them would help bring out more contrast and make your guy feel more like he has volume to him and weight. And it would also help in the textures of things. I noticed this is supposed to be a hard texture, which is why you put in a hard light. I would also put in a hard shadow instead of just a gradient from light to dark. And that's pretty much all I have.
Overall, I think it's got a phenomenal color scheme. I really feel like there's like ice and fire, crystal. Like I feel those in those colors.
And
I don't know anything about color. Sorry.
And that's okay. That's okay. The color choices are great. I like that you didn't just use a solid blue color scheme. You went from this more green blue to a more kind of purple almost color in here. It's a great contrast. Even though it is subtle, it's a really good use for mood and like temperature, all that other good stuff. Yeah. And I think that's all the time we have for this piece.
Thanks, Reva!
Yes, thank you for letting us critique your piece. We really appreciate it. If you have other pieces you would like us to critique in the future, let us know. Let's see. Next we have Dungeon Pug's piece, which is Karna, Queen of Thorns. Where are you? Nope. Where are you?
Forgot my stylist is being mean today. I was trying to drag stuff and... Ooh. Nope. Nope. Definitely. Alright, Karna, Queen of Thorns. I know you didn't really draw this, so I will try to make the like things that I say like as easily translatable into 3D modeling as possible.
Because this is a 3D model that Dungeon made and then posed and did lighting on.
Right, and painted over, or I guess he told me he does this like smudging technique where he like blends out the hard lines to give it a painted look. Right. So from the modeling perspective or from the drawing perspective, if we talk about composition, her hand could be in a more interesting pose, probably with her knuckles facing our direction. So you could have seen a little bit more of the gesture of her hand, because hand gestures add a lot to the character, to the feel. So if her fingers had been over here somewhere, I think that would have made your pose a little stronger. Sorry, muddling that up, because I could not figure out where I wanted it. Yeah, I would just go ahead and turn it entirely towards us, with the wrist being here, and then your fingers coming out this way. And then you can keep two fingers together for females in the center to give them a really graceful but yet still evil sort of look. And then pointing the fingernails, or pointing it at the first knuckle, adds a wickedness to them. You can like point the first one, keep the second two, or the second and the third straight to give it that pointy look, and then bend the third one. At this angle, nobody would be able to tell the difference. They would just be like, ooh, I like this shape. So, you know, you do have freedom because art, right? I'm seeing just a tiny bit of proportionate issues, which might be in the base model that you used, or it might be the clothing is distorting the model a little bit. It looks like her ribcage is here to me, which would put her elbow, if you swung it on an arc, it would put it here. If this character is supposed to have exaggerated proportions, then it's absolutely not a problem. But if these are supposed to be realistic proportions, then you should end the elbow somewhere here, to keep it consistent with like a more realistic person. And you did not add a lot of definition to the muscles, there's no problem with that. The blending that you did kind of muddled this area to where you can't really tell what direction the sternum is facing. or not the sternum, but the sternum in relationship to the clavicle. On females, this is a really important section or landmark for denoting beauty or grace or femininity. When you have just this much of it in, it looks great. When you have this much of it in, it looks masculine or skeletal. So in the future, you could take down the level of detail that you put into the neck muscles, even when twisted, because artistic liberties, right? And then put in just a hint of the clavicle. The under hollow of the collarbone does tendency to make females look good, but you can't have all of it at once without making the woman look more masculine than feminine. But if this was supposed to be a very like beefy masculine chick, then it's totally fine. Because she does have some pretty powerful trap muscles going on right here. So it could be that this is supposed to be a super warrior babe. There's nothing really wrong with your proportions, because this looks like a fantasy character, so, you know what I mean, nothing really can be said about the proportions. My only sad face about this is, I don't want to step on Jasmin's territory, but the color of the background, kills the brightness of these eyes, which could be, like, so powerful for the character. Another thing is the actual shape of the eyes. If you'd added more angles to the shape, or made the angles much more defined, like these are an egg-shaped eye, which is nothing wrong with that. But if you had pushed the design a little bit farther, you could have gotten something like this, which is just a stronger shape for a female character. If this is like, you know, attention, or the intention is this shape, and because of, you know, character reasons, design reasons, whatever, you know what I mean, that's just a style choice. It's just round corners on female eyes have a tendency to make them look open and honest and young is not a problem. This woman looks pretty young. Open and honest is a problem when she's wearing a hat like that, you know what I mean? So I would have pushed the design of the eye a little bit farther.
Unless she really is an open and honest person with just an intimidating wardrobe.
Exactly. You know, this could be like Bloomingdale's fault. Like, they put that eyeliner on her. You never know. Or where does it people go for makeovers? I don't know. Is it not Bloomingdale? It's like Macy's or something, isn't it?
I have no idea.
No, I don't know. So yeah. As far as the model goes, like, yeah, head proportions are fine, jaw proportions, all that good stuff on the model are fine for this type of person. You could have made her look more, sinister by narrowing and lengthening the face. But at this stage, it looks like she's supposed to have a little bit of exaggerated proportion in the neck area, which can make a woman look graceful, but it's still a proportionate rule. You know what I mean? You could drop down the chin more and lengthen the face, giving her more jaw, giving her more cheekbone, bringing down the eyes. You could do that, but there's nothing wrong with the way you've done it here, which is a little bit of exaggeration. So yeah, I would have given this background here a different color so that her eyes could really like pop though. Give them a chance, design chance, and then just be a little careful. Let's see if I can use my tablet keys on this. Come here, you. Come on. Just be a little bit careful. I can't really say much about blending, but I do know, like, you don't want to blend out like pretty landmarks on a pretty character. This is a pretty landmark on the lips. You have like the highlight on the top, that's cool, but like this right here says, oh, my lips are succulent, you know, ooh la la. Like, you want to have that landmark in there. And also, you know, give her a little highlight or something on the bottom of the lips so you can see those delicious lips, you know. Boop, boop. But that's all I got, Dungeon. It's not really drawing advice, just a poke about your designs. I don't know if this, like, all of that stuff I could have said could have been totally intentional, but I will never know.
Until he mentions otherwise when we see him next time.
Exactly. Exactly. Sorry, I was just like, I'm done there.
Break it down into shapes. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
just noodling. But go ahead.
Okay, I'll bump in here. So, on the coloring side, I did do a little bit of a paint over, but we'll get to that later. And it's mainly that contrast. You do have some good high contrast. It's just that we need just a tiny bit of other details to help fill in the gaps that we can't actually see. So on a piece like this, you never, not even like on a piece like this, just in general, you never want to use a flat black for anything. Even if it isn't a flat black, this quite isn't, but you do need a little reflected light in other places. Even though the background behind her is super like generic, it's just like a green wash, there's still going to be a reflected light around her because she is in a space with green light. So we would probably see, oh dear, as Gimp crashes on me.
It's okay.
That's okay. Let's open that back up.
I can point for you, but I can't choose colors.
Technical difficulties. So yeah, on the darkest sides of her, we would still see some reflected light. Now, that wouldn't kill all the core shadows. You would actually want the core shadows still in there. You just want a little bit of reflected light on the other side of those core shadows. Hopefully Gimp will open almost. Might take a little while. Oh, the technical difficulties.
I cleaned off my thing. You can, like, poke at it. And I have not reached for my chips like 3 times during this time. So every time I'm like, nah, put your hand down. Better not.
Yes, yeah.
Loves you right now.
It does. It's going to take a little while. So, like, in these areas where there's a lot of heavy black, I would add just a hint of, like, the green that's on her shirt, like, to her hair and underneath on her ribs, even though it's not a flat black. It would still add a lot more volume and give us insight as to what those shapes are in here. I would even put, like, a little bit of highlight on the edge of her jacket, so we can actually see that it's a jacket. I had to zoom in quite a bit to see the details that you added in here and the shapes that are here. Oh, please, Gimp. Please.
I think Jasmin is trying to put forth something I swear she's told me before, but I could be misquoting it exactly, that you can have dark shapes in your stuff. You can have a dark piece as long as there's contrast. Didn't you say something along those lines that I'm muddling up?
Possibly.
Like, I don't know. I was remembering something you were saying about another person's piece where they had all the black and all the gray, but it was all black and gray. But when you add, like, the brighter areas in them and make them really bright, you can still have a dark piece, but it's just high contrast.
Mm-hmm. That would be true. Gimp,
Something.
I swear.
I don't know. I'm not just filling the space while your Gimp is coming on.
I know.
That's what was bothering me. I was like, something going on here.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. There's a line here, but there's not a line there. So it's like, yeah. So anyway, sorry.
Aha! Yay! It worked.
Yay,
oh my god. Oh my god. So, places... set up my brushes again. Places that I would add just a little tiny hint of light for contrast would be in here, and maybe just a touch here. It doesn't really need it up here so much as it does really in this area. And along here, and since you have this all wonderful light, you have a lot of light, so this would actually light up quite a bit more here, at the very least. And there's this wonderful triangle on every girl's chest that is actually brighter than everything else. Even though it's not the highest point on her chest, that would get the most light and would be really bright. And since you have this as your light source coming up at her face, you'd lighten up her top lip and a little bit under her nose and along her lower lip, a little bit on her hair. I put a little bit of highlight on her belt thingy on the paint over, and just a tiny bit of light in this area. Like I said, it can be this color just added in these areas. It's not that great of a contrast, but it is there. So I came up with this. Let me actually Control-Z all that red so we can see a better thing. I added a whole bunch of light that is from the light source itself along this side of her face, so we can actually see some volume of her face instead of it kind of fading into black and making it look like her face comes in super far right here. And even over here I added just a hint of reflected light on this side of her face, and just a tiny, not really well placed hint of light here, because the light in her hand is so strong, lightning. It's very bright. It's supposed to have a really high contrast. I lightened up underneath her nose, her top lip, along her bottom lip, and put in a little light along her chin. Dungeon Pug, there you are. You just woke up. Alright. Awesome. Awesome sauce. I did even put a little bit of highlight underneath her brow here, because light's coming up from beneath. There we go. And hopefully, I added in a little bit more here to define the shape of her crown. Even if it is like attached to her biologically, you could still have a little bit of light on there to define its shape. And then just adding the green glow from her hand to make the piece more consistent. I think it's more than okay that the background is green and her eyes are a yellow-green. You could have used a different or a brighter shade to really make these glow, though. To really make them glow. If you really wanted them to be super uber powerful and evil, I would have just lightened probably the whole thing up to make sure that they do glow. And if
that would have been cool.
Yeah, if the eyes give off their own light, that light would be slightly reflected around her face in a few areas as well.
Baller. Yeah, so the background's totally fine. I'm never doing coloring advice again. I just wish their eyes had been brighter. Should've just said that.
And that's all the time we have for this piece, and that's actually all the time we have the critique show for the critique show. So we're gonna take a little break, and when we get back, we'll start in on Bronwyn's piece.
Oh no!
Yep. So I'm gonna actually end the stream and then start the stream again, because Bronwyn's piece will be part of a class, and we will catch you guys in a few minutes.
Thank you so much for adding your pieces. I don't know if I made it, but
You did. We're still live. I'm gonna stop in a few seconds.